As we drift through the new AI explosion that is happening in our society, two main AIs seem to keep popping up. The first one being, obviously, AI text generation such as ChatGPT. Probably the most popular form of AI at the moment, but the second most, and it's a very close second, is of course text-to-image generation and manipulation. This form of generative AI is super popular, obviously the Midjourney, the DALL-E, the Bing. It's all really great stuff, but what's the next step, the next level of AI image generation? Well, that happens to be AI video generation. We've seen a lot from AI video generation so far. Of course, Google's mind-blowing Imagen video comes to mind, but of course, we don't have access to any of this. This was just a cool paper that Google released with some more high resolution and high frame rate video. And of course, the only one that we can actually use is Runway Research's Gen 2, which is really a multimodal system that can generate novel videos from text, images, or video clip, but it does just do plain text to video. And one of the main issues is that most people still do not have access to the Gen 2 app, and the only real access anyone has is through the Discord server by Runway ML. And while, this video generation is really truly the best the public has at the moment, you can only generate 4-second videos at a decently low frame rate. And of course, it's not open source like we saw with the stable Diffusion AI image generator. You see, when things are open source, well, the possibilities of open source software allow for the modification and build upon of these video generators. So viewers, I'm happy to share with you today that we actually have a Gen 2 competitor that is fully open source. It's based off of ModelScope AI video generator, which was alright. It was like the very, very baby steps of AI video. All of this is still baby steps, but ModelScope is definitely behind a Gen 2. This open source free AI video generator I'm showing you today is actually fairly competitive with Runway ML's Gen 2. We're talking higher frame rate, higher resolution video generations. So viewers, our journey starts here on Twitter, where Kamen Daru says that they are happy to announce the first open source 1024 by 576 text-to-video model known as Potat 1. So obviously now we're actually, breaking into the HD territory for these open source text-to-video models, which is awesome. It is really heavily based on ModelScope, the open source model that produced rather cruddy little blurry videos, often with watermarks. You still get watermarks sometimes with this, but this is much higher resolution. And I think the quality is definitely substantially better, but we got lots of other thanks here. So ModelScope's the main one, Lambda API, and some other devs. You can try it through this link right here. And he also says that Potat 2 is in the oven, which means he's working on a better version of this. Potentially a higher resolution, more coherent one. Either way, the demo video that we have here is only about a second long, but it actually looks pretty promising. We have a nice still background that isn't moving too much, and we've got all these different kind of colorful, beautiful 3D animated fruits flying in the air, and it's a pretty good little demo video, I think. This is something that I would expect to see out of Gen 2, I think. That's kind of the quality we're looking at. And if we go down, we've got a GitHub link. Of course, this whole thing is open source. You can run this on your own machine. Anyone can go ahead and modify this. Training scripts are also available, which is really cool. We've got another example here of an astronaut that seems to be jumping through this world of fuzzy little blobs. It's kind of like this really trippy, weird video, but it would be cool for a music video or something. Either way, again, this is something I would expect to see out of the likes of Runway ML's Gen 2, but this comes from a fully open source, free to download and use model. The higher resolution really is kicking butt here. That is really what we need, is some high resolution, high fidelity, high frame rate text to video, and we're slowly but surely getting there. And I would be much happier for us to get there with open source models, because open source just means that anyone can modify it, anyone can make it better, anyone can have access to it. And the VRAM requirements to run it locally actually are not too bad. You can run this completely free in Collab with 15 gigs of RAM that is supplied by Google Collab. And if you have a graphics card like I do that has over 15 gigabytes of VRAM, you could potentially run this thing at your house. NVIDIA was kind enough to send me a RTX 4080 that has 16 gigabytes of VRAM, so I could run this thing on my own GPU at home. I don't have to go to a server or go to some service like Gen 2. We have another one. This is a little video of fruits bouncing off the ground seemingly. But yeah, you can see the fruits are actually blurry as they get closer to the camera, which is a sign of good coherency. The fruits are clearly strawberries and maybe some avocados or something. I'm not really sure exactly what's going on, but they all seem to be bouncing and landing around. It's a pretty decent looking video. We've got something that's a little bit more trippy here. Again, this is like almost a flash warning. This is pretty crazy, but it looks like some art line drawing you'd see in a cool music video. So there isn't any Hugging Face demo, which always seems to be the easiest way to try these things out, but there is a Collab demo, which is also fairly easy. Keep in mind, viewers, this is a prototype model. It was trained with lambdalabs.com on an A100 GPU, 10,000 training steps. Again, you have full access to the dataset and config, all of these fine-tuning models here. We've got 2 text-to-video fine-tunings, a video blip2 preprocessor, a Piscine detect, and of course here are the links to the base model here, model scope, and yeah, you can try it for completely free with this little collab. Here is the link to the GitHub. If you have issues figuring out how to run this, they actually do have a Discord server, which is nice, but there's a bunch of different collabs. Obviously, the main one here is going to be your Potat 1 text-to-video collab. Of course, a little tutorial video, which I didn't think was super helpful, but we've got some nice examples to look at down here. Again, these are more high resolution, more coherent than just your base model scope video. This one is a giraffe underneath a microwave here, and you can see the giraffe is inside of the microwave. This is like a throwback, or a lot of these prompts actually are throwbacks to other text-to-video generators that we've seen from Meta AI and Google AI. But yeah, the giraffe in the microwave came out all right. It's literally just a giraffe sitting in a microwave. We've got a golden doodle playing in the park by a lake. This one's all right as well, not super coherent. We've got the panda bear driving a car. This one's honestly pretty good. He's just kind of sitting there. The car is very still and very coherent, which I like. He makes sense in the passenger seat there. Got the teddy bear running in New York City. This one kind of just looks like he's hobbling around on his butt through New York City, but I gotta say the actual motion of him moving through the city, or the actual panning action through the city, looks pretty decent. This is one of the weaker generations for sure, though. This is definitely a very complex shot here. This is a drone fly-through of a fast food restaurant on a dystopian alien planet. If you click it here, it actually does look a lot like drone footage in terms of how smooth it pans into the restaurant, and you could definitely tell it's some sort of building on like a dystopian alien planet, although, you know, the building isn't all that coherent. We've also got a dog wearing a superhero outfit with a red cape flying through the sky, and this one actually is really good. You can see him do a full 180 turn there, and the whole body looks pretty coherent. And notice, guys, my favorite part about this one is the physics on the cape. They actually fly around and float around and make sense quite a lot. This generation is impressive, and to see something this coherent come out of the model shows you that it's definitely doing some good work. We still do have this Shutterstock logo here. I mean, this is really just an after effect on all of these from the model scope video, which this is based off of. But again, guys, model scope video is open source, which allows us to improve upon it with stuff like Potat 1. I really think that this dog generation, though, with the cape flying around and him doing the full 180 with the actual coherent background, is just truly marvelous. That is a good generation. We've also got 3 more here. Monkey learning to play the piano there. Definitely looks like a little monkey, and he's just kind of scrabbling around on the piano. Not super coherent, but the background is rock solid, the piano is rock solid, and the monkey looks decent, I would say. And we've got a litter of puppies running through the yard. It was able to do multiple puppies at once, which is pretty good, but they're kind of morphing into each other. This is a pretty weak generation, and yeah, it's just a little bit scrabbly and weird. And finally, we've got a robot dancing in Times Square, and this one honestly came out shockingly good as well. You can see Times Square moving in the background in a cinematic way. The light is reflecting off the floor in a realistic way. That's what you would expect, essentially, from all these screens in the background of Times Square. And the robot does kind of seem to be just standing there or dancing maybe a little bit. The robot is coherent throughout the whole video, though, and it's doing a nice panning. So while these videos are pretty low frame, very short videos, they look very, very promising in terms of their coherency. And for me personally, that is the most important part we have to nail down with text to video before we start to improve on frame rates and overall generation time. We want to get that coherency down. And this is looking a lot more coherent than just your base model scope video. It's looking almost as coherent as Gen 2 in a lot of situations. And again, fully open source, which is really the crown jewel of this whole Potat 1 text-to-video generator. So viewers, as I said earlier, you can use this entire thing for free on Google Collab, which is awesome. The Collab is super simple to set up. I'll show you guys how to set up in a little bit, but it does take quite a long time, about 10 minutes to actually generate a video through this thing. But that's on Google Collab. It could be a lot faster by either paying for a better collab or running it potentially at home with your own GPU. Again, here's where you put the prompt in. It also supports negative prompts, which is good. Number of steps per frame generation, a guidance scale, total FPS. In this case, it was 24, and then the actual total number of frames. So you could generate longer videos if you want. It's just going to take a really long time in Collab. I did 2 videos with the base prompt of duck here, so let's see how those turn out. All right, here is our first generation. Actually, at 24 FPS, it's not too bad. It looks pretty rough, pretty rudimentary here, but the resolution's decently high. Yeah, this is a little bit tough to look at, but I do like the way that the ducks are flapping their wings around here, considering this is brand new baby stage technology. And as you can see, viewers, it is at 24 FPS with a 1024 and 576 resolution. And what's actually really cool is that's actually a higher resolution than you get with Gen 2 outputs. Gen 2 outputs are 768 by 448, so you're getting a little bit higher resolution than even just regular Gen 2, although the coherency might not fully be that capable yet. So viewers, when you first open up into the Google Collab notebook, what you're going to want to do is run this first play button all the way up at the top. This is just going to set up the requirements to make everything work. It installs a bunch of different GitHubs, and it essentially installs the AI onto this Collab notebook. And once you're done with that, it's very simple. You can simply type in your prompt. In this case, I'm doing lemon character dancing on the beach, bokeh. And then I click this little run button. I just want to click run anyways, and eventually it will start to generate those frames. Again, you can change the number of frames if you want. It will just go up in terms of the length of the video. It's a very simple collab to use and set up. You'll see this warning that says could not find TensorRT. That's okay. It'll still generate. Again, it just takes a really long time to generate these videos, but that's okay. And by the way, guys, if you make anything really cool, please feel free to share it on my Discord server. I love to see all your cool generations and stuff you create with this new AI technology that we experience. You could even turn the FPS up or the total number of steps to get a clearer generation. It's all just going to take longer. And as you can see, the GPU RAM will start to pick up. Again, we have that 15 gigabyte total. And as you can see, we slowly begin to generate our first frame. Again, this is why it takes so long. It takes about 11 seconds a pop to generate a single step. And again, there's 50 steps per frame. So for 20 frames, you can see it starts to get pretty long, but that's kind of how it is when we're using this very limited, completely free Google Colab. On your own GPU at home, this might be blazing fast. So while this generates, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can run this on my own machine at home. This is very complex. If you're someone who isn't used to running this stuff on your own machine, you're going to have to download Python and have that Python runtime pip install all of these different GitHub locations. But let's give it a shot and see if I can make this work. I'm an inexperienced person when it comes to this. So viewers, here is my lemon character dancing on the beach. It's a little disturbing, I won't deny. I did try to get this set up and working inside of my computer, but I wasn't able to figure it out with the limited time that I have today. If you viewers want me to teach you guys how to install this thing locally, please leave a comment down below and I'll do a dedicated video for it. But if you are more akin to using this kind of stuff, it's going to be a lot easier. If you want faster generation, you could do something like lower the total number of steps. And by the way, guys, once you do a new generation, your old MP4 files get deleted. So yeah, we could have each one of these video generations just be one single step. And when we rerun it, it's going to generate a lot faster, but only one step per frame really isn't going to give you a very clear video, as we'll see. And you can see if we run this thing on only one single step, you just get a very blurry, basic image. No real clear content. I think it's fair to say, viewers, that this thing really is meant to be used by a person who has a little bit of experience installing these GitHub repos on their own systems, and I know that's a lot of you viewers at home. As you can see, Camandaru is happy that people are using Potat 1 to create stunning videos. Here's another example of a few videos combined together to create something a little bit more than just the one video. So if we play this here, you can see it's all a video of a very similar area here. It's like mountains with a waterfall, and it looks pretty decent, not super coherent. Of course, it's not nearly as good as regular text to image, but this is the baby steps of text to video, and it's really nice that we actually have a alternative now to Gen 2 in some ways that is fully open source, fully manipulatable. There's no bars held back on you when you use this thing, and it creates some decently high resolution video footage, and you can do stuff longer than just a second if you really want to wait for it. The generation time really is the main downside of this thing. And viewers, one more thing here, Potat 1 is also available in Blender thanks to Tint Wanton. You can essentially directly integrate it into Blender, and it's a lot easier to use than your typical stuff. Maybe I'll actually do a video on how to integrate it into Blender, because that's probably a little bit easier than trying to install it through Python on your own system. Viewers, I love covering really cool new cutting edge AI projects such as this one, especially if they're going to be open source and free for all to download and use. Let me know if you create anything cool with this. I'd love to see some videos down in my Discord server, which is linked in the description. And yeah, do you think this is better than Gen 2? Do you prefer it over Gen 2 just because it's going to be open source? I'm very excited to see how the next generation, known as Potat 2, ends up. That's going to be it for me for today. Tune in at the end of the week for a larger AI news recap, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.